When we look at our team from 2017 to 2019, we didn't have a lot of resources in terms of draft picks.
What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Stephen Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. What's going on, guys? Once again, Stephen Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel. Listen, if you're new to my channel, maybe this is the very first time you ever come to my channel, or maybe you've been here a couple of times. If you are into having someone break down and analyze film, break down and analyze press conferences like what we're going to do today, then this might be the channel for you guys. So if you can do me a huge favor, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscription button. All right. All my OGs, you already know. Go ahead and hit that like button, guys. Y'all know this. You guys have done a lot for this channel. The success of this channel is really due to you guys, not so much me. I realize that. Hopefully you guys realize that. But simply hitting that like button will let other people realize that, because what it'll do is press this content or push this content out across the platform. So we'll get more people involved. All right, y'all. What I want to talk about today is there were some pretty heavy hitting statements made at Howie and Doug's end of the season press conference yesterday. And to be honest with y'all, I had a little funny moment because I had made a video and then I saw that Lord Brunson posted a video and I was like, oh, damn, he posted something on the press conference. Let me watch it. I watched that video and I had to retract my video. I never uploaded it, but I had it ready to be uploaded. And I was like, damn. What ended up happening was that I think because Howie Roseman was so forward, we both came away with very similar viewpoints about what was going on. And I'm a big stickler to make sure that you're never robbing someone's intellectual property. My opinion, I think it's more courteous to rob my car or break into my home and take my TV than to steal my intellectual property. So because of how similar our viewpoints were on this, I had to go back to the drawing board and try to add something, give a different perspective than what Brunson gave, just because, look, Brunson, Joel from Philly 500, they're goats in this game, man. Like, there's a reason why a guy like me can be that intuitive and not even realizing what I did, you know what I mean? Like, had that kind of thing happen. So, hey, this is the refilming of this time. And yeah, let's get to the statements, man. There were some big, important organizational shifting things said during this press conference. So let's jump into it.
That's on me. We made trades for some veteran players to go win.
It did not take us long in this press conference to get really to the heart of the conversation, which was, number one, I'm going to tell you right now, Howie Roseman was being a little facetious there because the whole 2017 reference, I'm sorry, it's bullshit. 2017 and 2016, they definitely tried to build through the draft. 2018 and 2019, I agree with what he's saying there. But he's trying to be a little facetious there. They clearly missed on a lot in 2017. That was the draft that we took Derek Barnett. We took Rasul Douglas. We took Sidney Jones in the second round. We got Nate Gary late in the round. We ended up going with Donald Pumphrey over like 5 other running backs that would have all been legitimate, picks in the league. I mean, I get what he's saying, that there was a period of time, especially following the Super Bowl, where the focus was through veteran leadership in a very closing window to try to build through free agency and trades. Agree with him. I think he was being very forward, and when you do something like that, it does come at the expense of your roster becoming older. And I'll be honest with you, I think he was pretty straightforward on some of the struggles that has caused us in 2018, 2019, and even bit us in 2017, to be honest, on the Super Bowl run. And it has a lot to do with injuries, and I think he spoke to that.
One of the things that obviously has been an issue for us has been the injury situation.
As soon as I heard Howie Roseman say that, I won't lie to you, my ears perked up. I was like, ooh, not a topic I expected Howie to address on his own. I thought that would be more of a press, kind of question. Like when they opened questions up to the press, he would get pressed on that particular issue. So I thought that was really revealing that he came right on out and offered up an explanation for that. And I mean, let's take a look at what his explanation was.
We can help from a front office perspective by looking at the players that we bring in.
I got to give Howie Roseman credit there, because he took the onus on himself and his responsibility as the GM in the front office, because look, they took a lot of risky decisions with a lot of players with previous, records of injury. And then to make matters worse, what ended up happening was he signed a lot of aging players, players that maybe weren't completely over the hill, but they were certainly pushing up on that 30-year-old threshold. And we all know, as you cross over 30 years old and you're playing a contact sport like football, the injuries seem to pile up. And I think that some of the moves they made sense from a football perspective in terms of strength and weaknesses of the team, making your team more balanced, making your team more diverse, all those type of things. But they were done without really keeping hindsight of what has been our biggest limitation, which has been availability and injuries. And hey, is this going to be a major risk with these guys, coming in and playing, because we're giving away a lot of draft picks to get certain guys in here. And look, I think he was open and candid, and he even carries on this conversation.
Hope is not a strategy when it comes to injuries.
I think he's being very clear there. Hope is not a strategy for injuries. To me, now you tell me if you guys see something different. I think that's alluding to a single player who missed the majority of the season, completely limited what the offense was capable of doing, completely limited how they envisioned the season going for Carson Wentz. And the guy has a track record of injury. Although he's an explosive football player and a guy I would love to see back in that midnight green Eagles uniform next season. That's Deshaun Jackson. To me, it just feels like he's completely talking about Deshaun Jackson with that reference.
When you bring in guys that are injured, it obviously increases the risk that they'll get hurt again.
I think the youth movement is 100% here. But what I'm very curious of, how far-reaching will this youth movement be? I still think we're in a very peculiar situation because right now we have an entire division shifting coaching. Okay. Our main competition is still going to be the Dallas Cowboys. They're the next most talented team with us. Arguably, their talent is, as good, if not better overall than our own. So it does put us, even ourselves, into a weird situation because they're going to have to adjust to a new play calling style, new cadences, new terminology. They got an issue with Dak and Dak Prescott and his contract that needs to be resolved ASAP for them, or they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Amari Cooper, their best wide receiver, is probably not going to be back. They got issues going on in their secondary with Byron Jones, who I got to tell you, we'll get into that later, but I think that would be a hell of a target for the Eagles in terms of getting a corner that's respectable and can actually help us lock down a side of the field. All those things are coming into play. So now the question has to be, how far-reaching is this shift going to be? Because if you remember, when we were at our greatest struggle during the season, man, we saw Jeffrey Lurie come to, someone pointed that out to me, oh, Steve, Jeffrey Lurie came to one of the practices. That's not normal. That's not normal. There's pressure here. There's pressure on Peterson and that coaching staff. There's pressure on Howie Roseman and what's going on in this front office. I'm not sure how far-reaching this shift in youth will be. But I am interested in hearing what you guys think is going to go on there with the shift in youth. How far-reaching do you think it'll be? Now, I want to get into what Howie said in terms of what's in place to try to resolve this situation. We know obviously building through the draft is clearly he's getting to that. He's alluding to that. But what else are the Eagles doing? Because it's more than just getting a little younger. I've had people point out things to me that I thought were legit too. I wonder with all these foot injuries, you can't just put that on age because a lot of the injuries we suffered weren't even from the older guys. They were the younger guys, really. And it's got a lot to do with these damn feet, the foot injuries. Could that be related to the turf? Could that be related to the field and the practices, the way we practice, all those things? So I want to get into what Howie's explanation was for how the Eagles are going to address this situation.
We've hired a new chief medical officer. He came in June.
Quite clearly, Howie Roseman, the ownership, everyone is quite aware that we have an unreasonable amount of injuries. And we've got to get to the heart of why this is occurring. Now, he talks about last offseason in June, they went out and they brought in a new chief medical officer to head up our sports and nutrition department, right? To kind of get into that, it's not really sports and nutrition, that's part of that department. I apologize. It's really the sports science department. We're a very forward progressing organization. So we had things like analytics built in. Now everyone else in the league is trying to copy us. We were one of the first people to institute a sports science, department. We have a lot of these really groundbreaking, new wave ideas about how you play this football game. One of the largest failures, though, has been our sports science department. which I do think is something we have to kind of credit Chip Kelly for bringing in and focusing on. As bad as that whole experience was with Chip Kelly, that aspect, at least we were smart enough to realize, like, he might have been onto something. So I guess really the question that we're left with is how in the hell exactly is this guy going to help us? Like, what can this guy do to improve the situation?
And what he asked for us was that he would observe through the season.
That is a very interesting way of approaching it. That this individual came in, was signed, and said, listen, I don't want to come in here and shake things up right away. I just want to observe the way things are being run, kind of get a feel for the organization and what's going on here, the coaching staff, the training staff, everything, and then bring in what I would call my reform. Then, take leadership over this particular situation, which is very interesting. I'm not going to say that approach is right or wrong, but I will say that I myself, when I was managing security services as a teacher, anytime I was brought into like a new department or, you know what I mean, and I was asked to manage something, I didn't come in strong armed right away. I always kind of tried to understand where these guys were coming from, tried to observe what was going on, and then bring everyone together and kind of talk about what my observations were. It's an interesting approach to this particular situation.
Observe our training staff, observe our weight staff, our sports science.
It's an interesting proposition that essentially this man wants to take a look at what are the front office practices for how they're evaluating talent and bringing in players to supplement the roster. He wants to take a look at the strength and conditioning program. He wants to take a look at the coaches and the way that they practice, things like that. He wants to take a look at the sports science department, and he wants to have an understanding about nutrition and the medical staff and how they're approaching injuries. Are they being conservative in treatment? Are they being proactive in treatment? Or progressive in treatment actually is their correct terminology there. I mean, this is interesting. And he finishes up this thought by basically saying the following.
And make recommendations to us that we would carry out.
My personal feelings on this situation is I can empathize with the position of the chief medical officer because I've been in these positions as both the old head. When I was a teacher, I was one of the older heads in the department leading a lot of young people. And I've also been on the inverse of that to where I was the younger guy leading a bunch of veteran security guys. But because I was new and innovative and had a lot of experience and had prior military and all that on my record, they were like, look, this guy's going to be really good. So I empathize with the position he's taking because it's the same way I've always approached management myself, which is the worst thing you can do is to step in and think that whatever you've done in the past, however your management style has been in the past, that it's going to work in every single instance and situation. And there's no better way than piss people off than to walk into a situation headstrong and immediately start shaking things up before you can actually analyze what is happening. So in that particular instance, I do kind of agree with the approach, which is, hey, I've got to observe it. I mean, it was a struggle to watch it this year because I think we all had those moments where we're like, what the hell is going on here? Like, this is not normal. We have a CMO, a chief medical officer. What the hell? What is he doing? Well, he's taken this very conservative approach of, all right, let me watch, see how everyone reacts to things, evaluate this, and then in the off season, the following year, then bring it up, talk to people, bring everyone in together in a discussion, start making my recommendations for how to resolve the situation. So I do get it there. There's one more thing that I want to talk about from Howie Roseman's perspective of this press conference. And I'm only covering Howie Roseman today. I'll get into Doug Peterson maybe tomorrow or the following day. There's one more thing Howie Roseman said that I want to cover because I think it's extremely, extremely important.
Whether it's the coaching staff or the personnel staff, feel like you should bring in a senior evaluator or some.
So, question. The question that was asked is, does the front office and the coaching staff on the offensive side need fresh eyes on the organization? Someone to be brought in. Now, I'm not going to get to Doug Peterson's answer about this. We'll cover that tomorrow or the next day when I do a video about Doug, because I really want to get into Howie because I think Howie's the more key person here. Now, I want to end this video basically by getting into Howie's answer and what I think about that answer.
The personnel staff, we have that. We have Tom Donahoe.
Okay. If you're not familiar how the front office organizes, there's really four main departments that we need to be concerned with. There's a million departments because it's a business and there are separate, departments within any business. There's four that really kind of impact the day-to-day functioning of the football team itself. So you have the executive administration, which is basically your CEO, the president. So that's like, Jeffrey Lurie being the CEO. Then you have the president of the Eagles organization, which is Don Smolenski. And then you get down to like they have an administrative team that basically the assistant administrative team that assists them, but don't worry about those people. That has nothing to do with like the daily operations that we concern ourselves with. Then you get to the football operations side of things. So that's like the people who fall underneath Howie Roseman's jurisdiction, right? So now you got the chief managing officer, whatever, however you want to, general manager, whatever you want to title Howie Roseman, basically. And then underneath him, you get a series of people that would be like, the analytics department, the filming, all that kind of stuff. All right. Then you get to the scouting department. And that's where we're going to get to the person they're bringing up here, which is Tom Donahue. So you have Andy Weidel, who's like in charge of the scouting department. And then you have a consultant. You have a consultant and Tom Donahue, who's underneath the scouting department. So he kind of is there to kind of keep eyes on the organization, bring fresh and new innovative ideas, all that. The problem I have is with this answer is it's not really independent to my understanding. He's still underneath Andy Weidel and he's still underneath Howie Roseman. So I don't know how independent or autonomous his opinion can be. I think they would need to clarify more on that. And that's not their fault because the question wasn't phrased in a particular way to say, look, we know you got 4 departments that really impact us. You got the sports science, you got the scouting, you got the operations department, and you have the executive department. So, how does Tom Donahue is he autonomous in his decisions and the way he advises us? Like, is he underneath the direction of Andy Weidel and Howie Roseman? Does he have the sense of independent, thought that can go into this? They should have phrased the question better, is my opinion there. But I do think it's a bit of a scapegoat because Tom Donahue, it's not like his first season here. Like he's had time. So I get what they're trying to get at, but I think it's more pertinent to the coaching staff. And we'll get into that when we go over Doug Peterson. But that was kind of a very interesting question, and I thought a very scapegoat way of answering the question. Nonetheless, it was there. All right, y'all, I'm going to hop off here. These are my thoughts on one aspect of the interview. Now, I'm going to go over more aspects of the press conference when it comes to Howie Roseman in a part 2 video, just because there were so many topics being thrown against the wall. I had to kind of divide this up into 2 series. So this is part 1. Y'all don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Y'all know what time it is. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do here is, what do you guys think about this press conference? What do you guys think in particular about the questions about health and the questions about age? Because that's what we focused on today, health and age of this roster and what is going to happen going forward. So y'all give me your opinion there. You know what time it is. EAELES. Let's go Eagles, guys.